This is another one that is probably going to be the most important one, and I need to emphasize this truly. I truly need to emphasize this one because this one is. Let me tell you, it's hard. It's the way I would describe it is this: it's hard to just be in a situation or in a conversation with somebody who doesn't do this. This is going to be avoid types of people who don't take accountability and responsibility for their life, right? It's kind of hard to navigate a certain situation or hold them accountable when they need to be held accountable if they're being resistant to, taking accountability for their life or taking responsibility for the life choices that they've made. And this is that, like I said, this is one that I can't emphasize enough for sure. If you're a person who is if you're a person who avoids accountability and responsibility for your life and people are trying to hold you accountable yet you for whatever reason find a way out or constantly deny the fact that you need to take accountability and responsibility for your life, um, then I don't know what you're doing. You need to change that. And also, like I'd mentioned, if you see somebody, if you recognize somebody in your life that is truly not taking responsibility or accountability for their life or constantly making excuses and things like that. It makes the human interaction way more harder than it has to be. Truly, a lot harder than it has to be. And that at the very least, you must consider spending less time with that person, or like I said, you might need to cut them off depending on the type of person and depending on how much of an influence they truly are on you. So yeah, those people are not the most fun people to be around because you know let's just say for example you guys wanted to hang out and they bail on you last second. Now you understanding the fact that that is a wrong thing, you should be able to truly hold them accountable for their actions. And if they refuse to be held accountable or they make excuses and things like that, instead of saying, champ, I was in the wrong. I was in the wrong. I didn't mean to do that. That was wrong of me to do. If they are a person who avoids those certain situations where they need to take accountability, like I said, you must do something about that because something needs to be done for sure. Like I said, I can't reiterate that one enough. That one is probably one of the most important ones on here, if not the most important one on here for sure. Like I said, avoid people who do not take accountability and responsibility for their life. It just makes life a lot harder to be lived, and especially within their presence, it makes things way more difficult than it needs to be. All right. The next type of person that you must avoid is going to be people who overindulge within vices. And give me 1 second, I'll describe that right now. So when I say avoid people who overindulge within vices, this is going to be people who are degenerates, truly degenerate. And if you don't know what that means, make sure you go ahead and do your research on that word. But this is definitely a very very important one because a person who overindulges within vices, if they're in your environment, then you're more than likely going to be able to pick up on those certain habits. And if they're not healthy habits, then you're picking up on a negative habit, right? And I would say most vices, right, are going to be negative. So let's just say drinking, smoking, whatever, right? Anything in between or anything above that, quite frankly. Those are going to be vices that are, like I said, having an occasional drink or an occasional smoke, that's one thing, okay? Now, if it's something that you do every single day and you can't live without it, you have a problem. And if you are surrounding yourself with people who are constantly like that, then they have a problem. And you could try to help them if you would like, but quite frankly, some of those people are so addicted to those things, and yes, I said addicted to those things, that it might not even be worth your time, attention, and energy to try to help that person truly. And that is something that they need to figure out for themselves because eventually, over time, they're going to realize that it's not serving their best self, and they're not going to be the best version of themselves if they constantly, overindulge within those vices. This is something that I've mentioned on a previous podcast, and this is something that like I said, I would say stay away from those certain people who can't control themselves, and that is what it really is, right? People who truly cannot control themselves, and yeah, who overindulge within things that they probably shouldn't overindulge in. Like I said, an occasional smoke, an occasional drink, that's one thing. Okay, now if they can't live without it, they have a problem. And if you're constantly surrounding yourself with the people like that, then quite frankly you have a problem as well. Just as simple as that. And like I said, your actions are going to reflect that just because you're surrounding yourself with people who think that's okay. Right? Simple as that. All right. Let me read some of these comments real quick. I hate when people don't take accountability because they're not showing responsibility. Exactly. And they are lacking even more. It's okay to be held back, but the accountable people find ways to get okay. Exactly. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Like I said, it's just hard. It's just hard to have a conversation with somebody like that because it honestly reconstructs the entire interaction and the foundation that you guys both think that it should be laid on. Right? If I do something that's wrong, you should be able to hold me accountable. That's reasonable. That's a reasonable, thorough interaction. Um, because that's what's needed within the interaction. Now, if you can't do that, like I said, it's almost like moving the goalpost. So you don't know exactly what foundation you're on. You kind of don't know what your goal is and what the aim is. And with that being said, like I said, you must avoid those type of people. And along with that, like I had mentioned, especially with devices, man. Especially with devices, man. Get rid of those people as well. All right. So the next thing, I don't think I mentioned this already, but this is going to kind of go hand in hand with some of the things that I mentioned earlier. So this is going to be avoiding people who over or no who are not over. Avoid people who don't keep their word often, right? There's going to be certain situations where, somebody's not going to be able to keep their word, and there's going to be justifiable reasons behind those things sometimes, okay? Now, if it's most times, if they can't keep their word most times, if they're saying, "Hey, I'm going to do this," and they don't do it most times, then you have a problem. Then that person will have a problem, right? And you do not want to surround yourself with people who don't keep their word because, quite frankly, that shows some type of reliability, right? They lack reliability, and you shouldn't be surrounding yourself with people who aren't reliable because that's not any fun. That's truly not any fun for anybody in that interaction. And yeah, like I said, you need to be. Everybody should be a man of their word or a woman of their word. Like I think this is something that it should be common sense, like I'd mentioned, but truly it's not. I constantly meet people, new people, who are not a person of their word, and I think that is an interesting thing because how are you expecting to act in a situation? And like I said, some of those people who don't keep their word are also people who are not accountable for their own actions. So, um, yeah, you must be surrounding yourself with people who will keep their word, right? Like I said, the reliability is a huge thing for sure. And at the very least, let's just say, for example, they're not able to keep their word. How do they go about, like I said, taking accountability for their actions? How do they go about that? Do they say, "Hey, champ, you know what? I wasn't a person of my word right there. You know what? That's my bad. I will do better next time." And then they actually show you better next time. Then that's acceptable, okay? But like I said, if it's 8 times out of 10, they're not being reliable and they're constantly not keeping their word. If a person in general, right? Like that would obviously be a problem, right? But a person in general, if they're not able to keep their word, then their word is going to mean less, right? That is something that I've talked about on previous podcast for sure. Because why would I want to believe you? Why should I believe you if you can't even believe yourself, right? If you can't even make a commitment with yourself saying that, then how should I be able to trust you? Why should I be able to trust you? Why should I even have you around if you can't keep your own word? If you can't even say the things that you're going to do, or if you can't even do the things you say, rather. Like I said, that's one of the most annoying people that you can possibly deal with for damn sure. If you don't keep your word, you will lose respect from others and people won't trust you. He's exactly right. He's exactly right with that. Like I said, he hit it right on the nose. That's exactly how it is, right?